Hello, and welcome to Creating Effective Tables. My name is Madison Sumrow, and I'm part of Editing Services in MD Anderson's Research Medical Library. In this video, we'll discuss the elements that comprise a table. Let's take a closer look at table construction, starting with the different parts of a table. Here's an example table that allows comparisons of numeric values between groups. First, a table number and title are almost always given above the table itself. The table number is called out in the text, as in Table 1 shows X, or X is given in Table 1 to direct readers to the table. The table title clearly conveys the contents of the table. Ideally, the reader should be able to understand the table without referring to the text of the article. Next, all tables have headings, also called heads or headers. Column headings indicate what information will be found in each column down. Row headings indicate what information will be found in each row across. And straddle headings, also called spanner heads or spanning heads, allow you to group columns under a major heading. In this example, the spanner heading number of tumors applies to 3 columns. This is indicated by the line or rule underneath it. Of course, data appear in the data field of the table, and each intersection of a row and column is called a cell. Finally, footnotes provide additional information about certain data, groups of data, or the table as a whole. They can be denoted with superscript numbers, letters, or symbols, depending on the journal style. A footnote defining the abbreviations in the table is usually first. A brief note about table design. Notice that there are no horizontal lines within the data field. The only horizontal lines that span the full width of the table are at the top of the table, beneath the column headings, and at the bottom of the table. Also notice that there are no vertical lines whatsoever. Most publishers do not use vertical lines in tables. Beyond those basic elements, a few other components can help make a table effective. Here's a common table type. It's a summary of a literature review and a meta-analysis. This type of table allows the authors to present a lot of information in a very readable format. These tables can be quite long. This is an abbreviated and simplified version of a table from PLOS One. Let's look at some of the important components of effective tables that are illustrated in this example. First, notice the last footnote. It's a credit line acknowledging the original source of the information in the table. Here, it says modified from, since the table is a modified version of a previously published table. It would say reprinted from if the previously published table were reproduced here exactly, and based on if the previously published data were presented in a new table. A second thing to notice in this table is how the reference numbers are handled. You'll see that the first study in the table is numbered 23. This would indicate that 22 references had been cited in the text before the table was cited. The numbering continues in the table for studies that hadn't already been cited, and then resumes in the text after the table citation. In this example, the studies by Erwin et al. And Miyataki et al. Had not been mentioned in the text before the table was cited, but the study by Ku et al. Had already been discussed in the text. Another point to note in this table is how missing information is handled. Look at the entry NA in the center of the table, which is in the duration of sessions column. Here, NA stands for not available. That notation tells us that the authors did not accidentally omit the information. It is better to include a notation of this type than to have an unexplained empty cell. For other types of data, ND for not determined, a dash, or a 0 might be appropriate. One final thing to mention here is that different journals use different styles for capitalizing headings and using bold, shading, and lines. Check the author instructions for your target journal to see what guidelines they have for tables. You can also look at articles in the journal for examples. For the most part, we use the American Medical Association, or AMA, style in our examples of tables in this presentation. Thank you for viewing this video on the elements of a table. For further information about scientific writing and publishing, or to request editing or a consultation with an editor, check out these resources from the Research Medical Library.